Welcome to the Success Ascent. My name is Pat Mancuso, and we are excited to have you here today. I have an amazing guest, and we're going to get to her in just a second. However, first, I'd like to ask you, if you enjoy our show and you enjoy what you hear, please share it with your friends, your family, business owners, entrepreneurs. Also, you can go to www.thesuccessascent.com and subscribe for updates there. So let's get on with the show. So today I'm going to welcome Lysa Miller. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Lysa before we get started. Lysa's a serial entrepreneur, exactly the type of person I love having on our show. She's grown 2 digital agencies. She's founded the digital and social marketing firm Ladybugs. I love that name. And merged that to become co-founder of 3 Media, one of the largest 10 web development agencies in Massachusetts. She was featured on the cover of the Boston Business Journal's 20 Book of List, which is a cool achievement. She's also been named one of the 10 women agency owners you should know. And then recently, I think this is just so new, this didn't even make it to your bio. Agency Vista acknowledged you as one of the women marketing agencies to watch out for. So she's also had a number of acknowledgments, including being a part of the president of a 3,500 woman strong local networking and referral group. So Lysa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
So Lysa, I always have some fun with my guests when we start off, and I say, okay, that was Lysa on paper. Tell us something about Lysa that we didn't talk about in the intro.
Well, I have a small farm, pets, and I have a little farmhouse in a downtown area called Hudson. So I have like a little city farm going on with a few cats, a dog. I did have a rat, but she passed away, and a bearded dragon who's right behind me, which I don't know if you can see him, but.
Oh my gosh. Well, how cool. I bet we could do a whole podcast on that.
I actually brought him on the Brian Shulman show. I don't know if you ever listened to that show, but it's a LinkedIn show on Saturdays, and he just likes having fun guests on there, so I'll pop in. One time my boyfriend and I popped in and we did a music duo. Another time I brought Guy, who's my lizard, and so he came and said hi to everybody. So yeah, he's a good friend over there.
I love it. So there's no city ordinances where you are about all this farm animal.
No, nothing too crazy over here, but it is a lot for being downtown. So
yeah, too fun. Well, so Lysa, the premise of our show is the Success Ascent is talking about the journey of success and talking about how people go, the trajectory is up, down, sometimes left, right. Tell us about your journey of success. Like, what have you learned in going through your journey that you would share with our listeners?
Well, I feel like I kind of did the journey backwards because when I was younger, I had kids at a relatively young age in my 20s. So I only ever really worked in the corporate world for like 2 or 3 years. And then after my kids started getting bigger, that's like really when I started to do the entrepreneurial journey and grow my business. So I guess I've done it a little bit differently. And I'm 50 this year. I turned 50 during COVID. So I'm actually looking forward to like the next part of my life where I get to build a whole life around like what I want in life, like not as a need, not for money, not for accomplishment. I've kind of like done all those things, and so like now I just want to do something that I really, really love with a bunch of people that love what they do and bring them with me along the way.
Well, that's it's cool that we get to go through those kind of chapters, right? Success is it's a journey, it's not a destination, and I love to hear that you've got more chapters to tell the story, if you may. So let's drill down a little bit. In what I did in researching you, you've had a number of opportunities to grow companies and move on from companies and grow again. What have you learned about that you would share with people?
So I think that I'm a really great founder and early growth professional or entrepreneur. I think that is my strength, and I think that is why I enjoy doing that so much, and why I keep doing it over is because that's just really what I'm good at. And so, when a company gets too big or I kind of feel like I've accomplished everything, then I guess I get kind of like antsy and want to do something different. So that's like another reason why I have a couple different businesses too, is because I kind of always like doing different things. And that's just probably part of being an entrepreneur or creative spirit, whatever you want to call it.
So I'm curious in this, this is something that I've experienced. So I want to test it on you to see if it holds true. If you look back on that journey and you look back when you started and you got to that point and then you started again, was there a pattern? Like, was there a pattern of time, or was there a pattern, like I've got a 3-year pattern, like for 3 years, I'm like really good. And then boom, I got to, was there a pattern there? Because I think many entrepreneurs struggle with that. Like, is it okay to do that? So I'm just curious, was there a pattern there that you can think of any type?
I wouldn't say it was a pattern. I would just say that I got to experience 2 different experiences. And so the third time around, I'm trying to like blend those experiences to be exactly what I want them to be. So I didn't really know then what I know now. I didn't know that the first time. I didn't know the second time. So I would say all of those are a learning experience to kind of set me up for like where I really want to be as an agency owner, as a business owner, as a person, all those different things. And I get to do that. I'm lucky. I get to do that. Not everybody gets to do that, but I'm at a point in my life where I had the opportunity to do it, and so I took it.
So you said you were turning 50. Congratulations on that. The first half is over. The second half is starting. So, there were a record number of businesses started last year during COVID. And so let's say you were mentoring or coaching somebody that's just starting and they said, Lysa, what would you tell me if you had to do it all over again, you'd do differently? What would you tell them?
So honestly, I just would go with my own gut. I think people tend to listen to other people all the time and read books and follow specific processes around how to do things. And I mean, that is great for some people, but I think if you really want to do something special, you should go with your gut and do something that's different and try a different way and try a different thing, and don't be afraid to take those kinds of risks, because I think that's what's going to get you to your growth path faster. Not that those other, elements don't work, but at some point, you need to differentiate yourself too. So if you can differentiate yourself by doing things differently, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a process or you shouldn't have a plan or anything like that, but it should be uniquely yours, because that's really what you're selling, or your your really distinguishing thing is something unique to you that nobody else can offer.
So as you were building, obviously there were challenges. What was the biggest challenge you felt as an entrepreneur, CEO, founder, whatever title that you'd want to wear? What was the biggest challenge you experienced, or challenges you experienced, and how did you overcome them? How did you break through?
I think the biggest challenge I've always had as an entrepreneur and a female in technology is gaining the trust of certain types of customers. There's lots of times that you go in, you're presenting like a $50,000 or $100,000 website, and you're in a room full of men, and you're a woman, and you get questioned. And like, why do you get questioned? You have more experience than any of these people. I've been working in digital agencies since I've been 25 years old, which including my own. I've done development projects. So I think that is the biggest challenge that you need to overcome. And I think the best way to do that is by providing thought leadership, is by providing, the services and the different things that you're an expert at, and having proof of those, that you've done that. And, even now that I've had my picture on the cover of the Boston Business Journal's annual book of lists, which is like, one person every year, I mean, that comes with a lot of credibility. So now it's like, even when people hire you, you're like, oh, that's the woman that was on the Business Journal cover last year. Not that everybody says that, but it gives you credibility. So whatever you can find in your industry that gives you credibility, especially if you're a woman, or any kind, if you're any kind of marginalized group. I'm also an immigrant, so I don't have all the same resources that Americans might have had that were born here, and I actually have a lot of advantages over other immigrants because I speak English and the culture that I come from is pretty similar, but you still have to overcome some of the different challenges from, not growing up in this culture and knowing anybody here, really. I mean, you have acquaintances and people that you know over the years, but you don't have family, you don't have connections, you don't have those college connections or school connections. So a lot of that is a little bit harder too.
How about in Lisa, in growing the people around you? You know, one of the biggest struggles that I see for entrepreneurs and CEOs is they're really good at what they do, but they've got, in order to grow, they got to grow around them, and they struggle with hiring and leveraging. Tell me about what your experience was with that.
When I had Ladybugs the first time, it was pretty easy to hire the talent that I needed because it was a different time in the economy. Like that was back in 2012, 2013. And so that was easy to hire talent and find people. But now with the agency that I have, you know, the level of expertise now that we offer compared to that agency was more focused on digital marketing, SEO, social, which we still do. But the big piece of our business now is also web design and development and branding for, you know, mid-sized companies like biotechs and nonprofits. So a lot of these company projects come with like, you know, a 5-digit price tag, sometimes a 6-digit price tag. So that is harder to find experts to work on those types of projects. You're paying people more money, they're harder to find. So the way that I've overcome that is by offering a lot more autonomy for people who work on the projects so that they get to really use their skills to the highest level of degree, and trusting them to be the expert and lead the whole process rather than me. Just because I'm the company founder doesn't mean that I'm the best person for that job, and I shouldn't be telling them what to do. So I guess in a way too, we've created a bit of a non-hierarchy you know, organization where we are more all on an equal level. You know, there's not as much management and task delegation. Different people in the company have very specific roles, and they are the expert in those roles. And I think that just allows them to use. Everybody wants to be smarter. Everybody wants to be creative. Everybody wants that at that level. So providing an environment for them to do that is, I think, the best way that I've been able to produce such an amazing team of people.
Yeah, and there's no doubt today's hiring environment is it's different than I've ever experienced, and I'm just a tight bit older than you are, and yet it is just an interesting time. So Lisa, you grow businesses, you have success. You grow businesses, you have setbacks. Entrepreneurs, I think, more so than maybe CEOs of larger companies, they experience a lot of stress, anxiety. If payroll doesn't get met, it's coming out of their pocket. Otherwise, their people aren't getting paid. Just as an example. So, how have you dealt with that stress, anxiety, those type of experiences in your journey, and what would you coach others that are going to meet those type of things to do?
So I think for me, I've always been involved in bootstrap businesses. So I've never had a business where someone's given me funding or given me money. And so I think you always have to be financially aware and know what decisions you can and can't make. So I think, if you're going to build a company from bootstrap, you have to build it from bootstrap. So with my agency at this time, I couldn't just jump in and be like, I'm going to hire all these people. I had to come up with a formula for my business that was going to work and going to work financially until we get to a certain point. So I just advise people to come up with a business model that's realistic and scalable, that's going to allow you to grow without you having some of that stress and some of that headache. So just operate lean, and there's lots of great books such as Profit First, which can help you, organize a business from the profit in, as opposed to like building a business and then hoping that you make money when you do your balance sheets.
Yeah.
So I think just thinking about that right from the beginning, how am I going to be profitable this time? What does it look like to build that right into the company? And then I think that takes a lot of the stress away from that. Also having financial forecasts, like what cash flow forecasts, knowing what's coming in, what's going out, and just keeping a really good checks and balances on that, and not being overzealous, like not trying to be too much too soon. But one of the biggest frustrations of being an entrepreneur is growth, because you hear of all these people that are like, oh, I made $1 million in a day. Oh, I made $1 million in a year. For the average entrepreneur, that is not the case. When I had my first agency, it took me at least 5 years to get to 6 figures. 5 years, that's a long time. But then once I got to that number, I was just able to consistently double that every year.
Right.
So, if you can get to a point where you're, where you feel really good, and I think your business will just exponentially grow if you have a good business and a good business model.
And the Profit First book is a great book for entrepreneurs to read, to really get the mindset wrapped around how to take dollars when you're running businesses and what to do with them to make smart decisions. So how do you stay positive as an entrepreneur? That's a challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs because sometimes they're the only ones in the room, right? So how did you stay positive in your growth and in your journey of success?
I mean, this last time, in COVID, when I decided to leave my other venture, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew it was COVID. I had my kids home. I just needed freedom from something for a while. And so I didn't even think about going back into agency life. I was going to maybe do something different. I just wasn't sure. And I have been dabbling in investing in some other businesses, but I think for me, when people started coming to me personally and saying, hey, will you work for me? Will you help me while you're looking and figuring out your life? And so those people and their confidence in me is basically what created this agency. I didn't create it. These other people created it for me. They're like, will you come work for me? Will you come do a project for me? And so I did that kind of from July until October. And then all of a sudden we had an agency. We were doing $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 projects. So I guess that was kind of cool, that it just kind of birthed itself.
Yeah. Well,
so those people, those people that believe in you and come to you, and it's not about where you work, or it's not about who it's about the work you do. It's about that they trust you, and that is just so valuable in terms of how you feel about yourself and the confidence that you have in yourself. And going it alone and starting all over again was definitely a big decision to make. But I think I was the women too, because a lot of these women go to technology companies, and again, they're very male dominated, they're male owned, they tend to not be very diverse. If you go to any agency webpage, go see the diversity and inclusion on the About Us page. It's not a whole lot, and that's definitely something as agencies that we need to do better at. But I felt like there was nobody to serve those markets either. So women were having a hard time hiring, and they would come to an agency, and these are stories that women would tell me. They might have a $40,000 budget, but yet they wouldn't talk to them. And so going to another woman owned company, created a lot of trust. And so we definitely have a lot of women owned businesses. We have a lot of women led companies, and we have a lot of diversified, different types of people who speak different languages, all that kind of stuff. So we have a very multicultural roster of clients.
Well, that's amazing. And what an opportunity for you and your passion to you said that many of the agencies don't have that cultural makeup, that diverse makeup. Those people are out there. They just need somebody to guide them and mentor them and share the opportunity with them, because we definitely need more of that. There's no doubt about it. So let me shift gears a little bit, Lysa. What's the most difficult thing that you've had to overcome as an entrepreneur in your journey, and how did you overcome it?
So, I mean, some of the biggest things I had to overcome, especially with Ladybugs 1.0, was definitely difficult clients, and clients really ordering me around, being verbally abusive, having super high expectations, and just really not professional communication. That was really, really hard on me. I remember one Christmas, I had a law firm that was a client, and one of the partners just called me up the day before Christmas and just started yelling at me for no reason. So something I've had to become really, really good at is to be able to flag those customers and clients early on and figure out, what their mannerisms are like, how they treat you, who's running the show. Are they running the show? Are you running the show? Are you a partnership? Because that is definitely, for me, was really discouraging. I do not like to be put down. I don't like, nobody does.
Right.
But for me, I'm kind of a people pleaser. So even if somebody would yell at me or whatever, I would still try to fix their problem. So for me, I've had to graduate from that and be like, you know what, that's your problem. Like, I'm not going to sit here and take abuse just because like you have another stressful thing going on in your life, because
Right.
it's never really anything you do. Like, it's just that person's having a bad day or whatever, or they're spending a lot of money and they're having like financial times. So that is definitely something that I had to work really hard at being better at, and making people treat me with the respect that like I deserve.
Right.
They're paying me to be their consultant and their agency. So, you're not paying me to yell at me and abuse me.
Well, they say
So,
they say hurting people hurt people, and that's typically
yeah.
what happens. And yet, it doesn't give anybody permission to be a jerk or to take their life or their experiences out on you. So good for you for setting standards and getting those expectations in line. Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to, in somewhat aspects, when they're starting out, they experience the same thing because they want to grow the business.
You're so desperate, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let me shift gears a little bit, Anya, and I want to just real briefly, I want to ask you, so you've got all this experience in the digital world, the online world, 25 years of it. So you've seen a lot of changes. If there was one thing right now you would share with entrepreneurs about what they need to do, where they need to be, or what's the one thing they should focus on online to drive more business to them, what would it be?
Well, it depends on your business, but my first thought is going to be SEO. Because if people are looking for your service, you want to be found. So the first place people look is Google or Google Maps or whatever it is. So I would make sure that you know what your customers are looking for and that you're being able to be found on there. And then for other businesses, I would just say also social media, because even though it's not people finding you, you're getting your brand exposure out there. So the people who might not be looking for you now could be looking for you later, already know about you. So those would be my two tips: SEO first, website SEO, social media second.
So I think I already know the answer. I just want your perspective. All this stuff is changing so fast, and there's so much of it. Like, you turn on, you open up the email today, and this was good today, and this is good tomorrow. So when you talk about SEO, is it really just easier for people to hire somebody to do it versus learning because everything is changing, or can people learn it?
I think people can learn it, and I actually think like you're the best content expert on your business. So even if you're not the person doing the SEO, you should still highly be involved in the SEO strategy, because you know your business the best. You know what your customers are looking for. Because people think SEO is just all about keywords and analytics. It's not. There's other things that people look for when they're searching for a company that might speak to them differently. So there are some opportunities in SEO to kind of like differentiate yourself. So that's why you should really understand what it is and how you can contribute to it. But you can hire somebody for sure. You're probably going to get better results that way, but you should still be highly involved.
Okay, it makes sense. So we're going to really shift gears now. What's the best advice you've ever been given that hopefully you follow?
The best advice I ever got was I was sitting somewhere crying, complaining to my sister-in-law about how I couldn't get this done and I couldn't get that done. And she just said to me, she said, stop focusing on what you can't do and focus on what you can do.
I love
and
that.
So that was actually some really great advice, and that was given to me not even that long ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, that I wish it's your perspective, like how you look at things. Like, yeah, maybe I can't do all these things, but I can do this, and I can feel good about this. And maybe when you get those things done, you can do this. But so yeah, just focusing on what you can do.
Yeah, that's a great advice, by the way, and didn't cost you $1 million. It was just your sister.
She's an entrepreneur too.
Of course.
All my sisters are.
Yeah, exactly. So let's flip it upside down. what's the worst advice you've ever been given and that hopefully you didn't follow? And if you did, what did you learn?
I thought about that one and I was trying to think, like, what is the worst advice I ever got? And I still can't really think of something that was really, hurtful to me. So maybe I'm just one of those people who doesn't listen to advice in general. And maybe that is my problem, is that I don't listen to enough advice. I can't even remember the bad advice. Maybe I've only gotten good advice. Who knows?
Yeah, Lisa, what's funny, and I still ask it, there's some people who struggle with it. And what I've found is they've all gotten bad advice, but they've taken that bad advice and they've either used it to drive them for good, or they've taken it and just put it out of their mind. So it's not uncommon that, you struggle to find anything or think of anything. So, but it'll come to you. You'll be after the show, you'll be like, oh yeah, that was the bad advice. I shouldn't have followed it.
There's probably like some really bad outfit that I wore to some event. Like I do remember I wore leather pants once to an event, and my business was it was like, hey, maybe you shouldn't wear leather pants next time or something like that. I don't know. It wasn't. I'm not like one of those people who's fashion forward, so that was like really like out of the box for me to wear leather pants.
Oh, that's funny.
Might have been a shocker for the room, Yeah. I was like, oh, there's Miller and.
Yeah, reminds me of that commercial that's out there right now. It's for one of the phone companies, and there's one woman on the one line and the other one on the line, and she's giving her advice on what to wear to the event, and the phone cracks up, and she hears she can come in a costume. It kind of reminds me of that. So she shows up in a costume, a chicken costume or something. So Lysa, we're gonna round this out. So I'm gonna give you a minute to think about that final thought. Before we do, though, I'm going to scroll your company's website. So who would be a great client for you guys? Who would be a great client to reach out to you for your services?
So we work with a lot of early growth companies, so manufacturing, biotech, those tend to be big ones for us, along with nonprofits. And like if you're women-led or have a women team, we work really well with those teams, and we work well with men too. But sometimes, when you're a women-led team, it's nice to work with another women-led team. And we're always willing to work with local businesses and entrepreneurs, and so a lot of the times we just work with whoever feels good to work with. We have a conversation with you and it seems like a good fit. So
I love it. I love it. Well, get ready for that final thought that you leave us with as I do a little housekeeping here. So ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we thank you so much for listening. If you didn't listen, we wouldn't do this. And so we love your feedback. Please go to your favorite source, your podcast source, subscribe there. Leave us feedback, leave us a rating wherever it is that you go to for your podcast. We also post this on YouTube down the road, so you can subscribe at our channel at YouTube as well. So, Lysa, what would your final thought be, if you may, to share with entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners who are listening about your success journey? What would be your final thought?
Just you need to do what you love. That is the only way you're going to be absolutely 100% successful in your own way. So success doesn't necessarily mean money. It doesn't necessarily mean fame. Success is being like the happiest that you can be. So you need to do something that you absolutely love with people that you love.
Well, I can tell you love what you do, and you light up when you talk about, how you can serve clients and what you can do for them. So it definitely shows. So I just want to personally thank you for being here today, for taking the time with us. Again, if you want to reach out to Lysa, we've got the website. We'll post it as well. Lysa, thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a blast.
Bye-bye, everybody. As I say, be healthy, be safe. Have an awesome day. Take care.